Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your host Brian, and welcome back to another Q&A episode. Before we jump to a new travel vlog, as well as answer your questions afterwards, let's start off with some news. Alright, so first order of business. In terms of drum collaborations, I actually got to get my ends of the Pantera collaboration to Mike Lewis. So, sorry Mike, I meant to kind of get it this weekend, but got a little sidetracked with family business. So, hopefully we get it to you this week, so we can release it next week. We'll go from there, so everybody stay tuned for that one. This week is also when I'm going to close my multi-drummer collaboration for anyone who wants to participate in it. As of now, it looks like I got 8 confirmations. One of them had to drop out, which I'll get to in a little bit, but it's actually from the heavy metal band Down. So this one I'm actually interested to see, but this Friday, February 3rd, that's when we're closing it all out. Afterwards, I want to get the audio and video, put that all together, then release it sometime in February. So make sure y'all stay tuned for that. And if you do want to participate, you got till Friday. Speaking of drum covers, first one is actually, it's going to be my longest drum cover to date. It's the Ultraviolence from the thrash metal band Death Angel. Now this one was a pretty tricky one. As you guys know about thrash, it tends to be pretty fast. This one tends to be pretty complicated too because it has various tempo changes here and there. But I am so damn proud of this one. I'm hoping you guys like it too. So that one's being released this Friday, so make sure you all tune in for that one. And speaking of drum covers, I realized I kind of backed away from my Teenage Rebellion project I did last year. It was meant to be with Silverstein and the one album from Story of the Year. After thinking it through, what I'm going to do first is actually cover 3 songs from High on Fire's Snakes for the Divine album. Not going to tell you what names of the songs just yet, but y'all stay tuned for that one. I'm going to do those 3 first. Then afterwards, I'm going to go back to Silverstein, which was When Broken is Easily Fixed. I'm going to make sure I get that whole album out of the way. And I think what I might do afterwards, for just to kind of finish out the Teenage Rebellion project, is maybe jump between Story of the Year and then maybe another drum cover from a different artist here and there too. So that's at least for the month of February. So, and lastly, I want to give a shout out to Mike Conway and John Grubbs. Both drummers are in the drum community. They're both going through some hard times right now. So guys, this is for you. Love you guys. And I hope we can actually do collaborations at some point. So Van Conway and Johnny Grubbs, appreciate what you guys do. So everybody, go out, show them some support, show them the love, let them know that we're here. We love you guys. Hope to see you guys soon. All right, so for the travel vlog, this one's going to cover our trip from Louisville, Mammoth Cave, and a couple stops here and there before we make it into Nashville. So this one's just going to be a little bit of a simple one. Not sure how long it might last, but let's just see how it goes. So here's a travel vlog of days 1 and 2. Alright, so let's begin this new travel vlog. So day 1, we get up early, and then we spend the whole day traveling, going through the countrysides of PA, good farmlands of Ohio, passing through Columbus, eventually reaching Cincinnati, shout out to Rich Raw Dog Drums, and eventually making our way to Louisville. And day 1, that's really all about it was, but after we got to our hotel, me and my dad actually went down to Mussel and Burger Bar in Louisville, which was very good. And as I always like to quote the Pulp Fiction line, "This is a tasty burger." I know my dad had one too, and they were very good, but they were interesting bunches too, and I guess they were also their top selling ones, as well as ones that won them numerous awards. Regardless, afterwards, me and my dad, we just walked around just to get familiarized with the territory. We actually made it to where the Louisville Slugger Museum is, as well as actually where they make the bats. So we at least knew where to go for tomorrow. Then we just made our way back to the hotel. Day 2, that's actually when we went into the Louisville Slugger Museum. And it was really amazing. And I think the funny thing is like there's people actually working there, and they're just seeing all these tourists just walking through the line, which at this point, it just seems like a normal day, but we've seen like a couple videos here talking about how the company got started, as well as even seen the various names of all the legends, Cal Ripken Jr., Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Roberto Clemente, you name it. We've pretty much seen all those names, even some bats that were currently works in progress that current MLB players are actually playing. So that was interesting, and it definitely brought back memories of my childhood. And I have to admit, the throne made out of baseball bats was an interesting touch near the end there. And afterwards, after we got some souvenirs, me and my dad decided to entertain ourselves and relive the good old glory days. That was actually 20 plus years ago, doing a little batting practice. My dad, actually, he did a little bit better than me, but it felt good actually getting back into it. So, but obviously 20 plus years, you tend not to pick up the old habits as you used to. So, regardless, it was a great time. Afterwards, we went on a car ride, made our way over to Mammoth Cave. Now, we didn't actually go into the cave, and actually the funny story was, it took us a while just to find where the main hub was, because it was really weeding for all the back roads after getting off the main drag. So, after a little bit of frustration and this and that, we eventually find the main hub. We just mainly relaxed in there, even seeing a little bit of history, because there was actually a little bit of a walking, I should say like maybe a little bit of a walking tour, which you just read like all the various notes about this and that, as well as various discoveries they made while going on certain expeditions into the cave. So that was interesting. But afterwards, we just got back on the road and made our way down to Nashville. Now, the day wasn't the greatest, and unfortunately it rained a little bit. So all we really did, after we got into our hotel, we actually went up the road a little bit to Martin's Barbecue. Martin's was interesting because I actually got a full rack of ribs, thinking that it was your traditional baby back ribs, and it was actually pork ribs. So needless to say, I have this big tray of ribs, all sorts of fries, coleslaw and everything. So the good news was, it started pouring down rain, so we at least could take our time, just like trying to finish our meals. Sadly to say, it was a dish I could not finish. Well, originally we thought about taking the leftovers, but we decided just to leave those behind because obviously we're here in Nashville. We're going to go out to various restaurants. Why have some leftovers here and there when we can just go out and eat? But regardless, we had to run back to our hotel room because it's pouring down rain. We did not bring our umbrellas. So needless to say, we got soaked. But that was about day 2. Afterwards, all we just did was chill in our hotel room. And that's that. So I'll see you all for day 3. And so, let's jump right into the questions. So for this week, we got 2 questions, both of which from good friends of mine. The first one is from John Brooks. John's question goes like this. Question for next one. When and where will your next vacation be? So John, I cannot disclose that information at this time, but to make up for it, I will happily share a few my bucket lists. So we always get a lot of booklets of like Viking, Talk, and all those other travel agencies. And after looking through each one, here's a list of the countries, as well as even places within the US, I would like to visit. The first one would be in the Scandinavian regions. So Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. I think I visit Sweden. I think I want to run into Bjarne and his friend Henrik. I did a nice little podcast interview with them recently, so it would be nice to actually meet them too and get to know them a little bit more. I've actually seen like various photography shots, as well as some videos. We could also say drone footage too. But just everything from Norway, Sweden, Finland, this is absolutely gorgeous. So I would absolutely love to get out there, as well as visit the cities as well. But the other ones on the list, I've been to Germany a couple times, but I've not been on the Rhine River or in the city of Berlin. So those would be on my list too. Maybe run into some of my German friends along the way. Croatia would be actually an interesting one. And I think the capital city, I don't want to try to pronounce it because I know I'm going to say it wrong, but I think the capital city of Croatia was used in Game of Thrones for part of the setting of King's Landing. So I think that would be interesting. And I think I did see other parts of Croatia that were pretty neat too. Then Italy would be another one. And then the last one would be in the States. I know there's plenty to visit, but I've been all along the East Coast for a good chunk of my life. But trying to get a little bit more of the central states, I think for this year, Memphis, Tennessee would be an interesting one. The only reason why I would say Memphis is because, 1, barbecue, and 2, blues music. So I've already been to Nashville right now, so I'm already familiarized with the country music scene. Now let's go into the blues scene and go see what that's like. So, Memphis, Tennessee. So that's at least it for my bucket list right now. It might adjust it here and there, but that's at least the good rough draft of the bucket list right there. So there you go, Johnny. And the last one is from my good friend Brian Drums. So Brian's is a little bit of an interesting one because this one he actually wants me to talk about symbols. So I said, challenge accepted. So Brian's question goes like this. Maybe talk about symbols, like different companies and how they compare. So I'm really going to try my best here, Brian, because as you know me, I've always rolled with the electric drum sets. I've only done maybe regular cymbals a little bit. And I think that was yeah, that's right. It was actually when I was in my little cover group I did a couple sessions with. I think the cymbals were Pasty or whatever the name you want to go by. But regardless, my experience with like regular cymbals, there's not a whole lot of experience. But at least from like some of the interviews I did on my podcast, they shared some insight on each ones. And the most ones I've seen have been Zildjian, Pasty, and Soultone. I think a couple I've mentioned Sabian, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But those are the four I'm going to focus on. So just to reiterate, Soultone, Sabian, Pasty, and Zildjian. So I think if I were to pick, as well as maybe do my own little comparison of each one, I feel like it would have to be like individual drum sets with like each the different cymbal heads on them. Now, as you know with cymbals, and I'm sure you know this too, Brian, cymbals are kind of an arm and a leg too. And I was just even looking at Sweetwater with like Zildjian cymbals. It's anywhere between like 200 to 300 for maybe like the 16 inches ones, maybe 14s here and there. Regardless, I think for any of these cymbals, I think even just like the traditional with hi-hats, two crashes, and a ride cymbal, you're going to spend a pretty penny just to actually get the cymbals for maybe just a mediocre drum set, for instance. Just saying. But I think if I were to break it down, I feel like Soultone and Zildjian for some reason are really calling to me. The reason why I say Soultone is because actually I've seen it on two of my podcast interviews from Fred Fisher and my newest podcast interview that I'm going to release next week with Manny Gerard. And they're both endorsed by Soultone too. And from the sounds of it, they actually sound pretty good. More specifically from Fred Fisher's drum covers that he's done. And they actually sound pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie about that. And I think the only reason Zildjian is because I think I know a good number of the metal drummers I listen to. I think they all maybe endorse too, but I think they all play Zildjian too. They might vary a little bit here and there. But I think the biggest thing to take away from this is it's really down to preference. So I always like to quote Vinnie Paul because I think Joey Clark also mentioned it too. Vinnie Paul likes the sound of cymbals sounding like it's breaking glass. So that's his preference. He wants it to sound maybe those kind of a little rough tapping or something like that. Makes it sound like it is tapping on glass or something like that. But regardless, it really comes down to preference. I know I kind of reiterated it again. It's really what it comes down to. For me, that would be how I would do it. And I just do it based on feel, be like, I like the way this sounds. So maybe I would actually do a drum cover if I were to give it a chance to do that. So I hope that answers your question there, Brian. So I gave it my best. And so that wraps up another Q&A session. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button right there. Come on and support the channel. Also make sure you hit that bell notification so you can see more content like this in the future. Make sure you also leave a like and a comment below, as well as any questions you guys have so I can make sure to address them in the next video. If you guys would like to come on my Grit Show or my podcast or even my Just Chatting series, just hit me up on the socials. I'll leave links down in the description below. You guys know where to find me. So thank you guys again so much for watching. Stay safe. Stay tuned, y'all.